I call this meeting to order. This is the regular meeting of Livingston Parish Council, September 13th, 2018, 6 o'clock. Could everyone please stand? Mr. Wascom has the invitation tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Ard. You know, I often think when people ask me to pray for them, or people ask us, to pray for us, that the person that we're praying for it gets the most out of it. But I've come to learn that the person that does the praying probably benefits more than the person we're praying for. So tonight, instead of myself praying, I'd like to ask a good friend of mine, Mr. Tab Lobel, if you would lead us in invocation.
Wow. Bear with me. Heavenly Father, we come to you tonight and we just thank you for the blessings you send our way every single day. We just ask that you let us make good decisions, Lord, that would be pleasing to you, and just let us all look to you every day for the guidance that we need, the guidance and discernment, and just to do things that would put a smile on your face. We just thank you for all the people in our country that make this a possibility, that make the freedoms that we so often take for granted, that we just thank you for those. We just ask that you be with the fellows in the military, be with our law enforcement that helps keep us safe. We just ask all these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Shane Mike, you lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Sandy, you please call roll.
Mr. Lobel.
Here.
Mr. Agler.
Here.
Mr. Mack.
Here.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Here.
Mr. Talbert.
Here.
Mr. King.
Here.
Mr. Wascom.
Here.
Mr. Harris.
Here.
Mr. Ard.
Here. This time I'd like to remind everyone to please silence or turn your cell phone off. I need to do that myself. All right, 6, public input. When we come to an item, we'll allow the public to have input on it. We'll give 3 minutes to the people speaking. We're going to keep it a minimum of the amount of people that speak on the same subject. And we'll start repeating. We're going to shut it down and go on to the council's vote. We don't have any presentations tonight. Item 8. Adoption of the minutes for the August 23rd, 2018 regular meeting of the council.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Garlinghouse, second by Mr. Harris. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Parish President report. Nothing to report. Office of Homeland Security, Emergency Preparedness, everybody's favorite person, Mr. Mark Harrell.
Everybody.
He makes it sound bad. I don't know how he does it.
I didn't mean it to sound
Good
bad.
evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I haven't told all of you lately, so I want to do it publicly again tonight. I love each and every one of you, and I thank you for what you do for the people. Thank you. Love y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one resolution I'm asking for tonight. It's on the LGAP grant. You will see on there that I'm asking for a resolution to buy radios, but I think it's $70-something thousand. But that $70-something thousand is a parish-wide grant, so all the municipalities, everybody's applying for it. That grant's going down to nothing. So what I've done is just asked for the okay to do that and get a resolution. We sent it in. We probably won't know for another 6 months what we do get, but I'm just trying to get ahead of it and move on.
Thanks.
All right. That'd be good.
I'll make a motion. We
I'll second that.
adopt the resolution
Yep.
authorizing Mark to apply for this grant.
Motion by Mr. Wascom, second by Mr. King. Any comment from the public?
Did I word that correct?
Council?
Yes, sir.
Good. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. Mark.
Item 11, We are now entering a public hearing. This is adoption of LP ordinance number 18-22, provision for entrances and exits in subdivisions. Sandy, do you need to read this by title?
This is proposed ordinance 18-22, an ordinance to amend Article 4 of Chapter 13 of the Code of Ordinances of Livingston Parish, Planning and Development, adding Section 13-55.1, provisions for subdivision street entrances.
Sam, Eddie didn't see, we didn't get anything from that at all?
I didn't get anything.
Any comment from the council on this?
Well, you know, we talked about this ordinance. We had an ordinance committee meeting. We've talked about it for about 4 to 6 weeks. And the ordinance committee voted unanimous vote to move forward with this and recommend to the council that we pass this ordinance. This particular ordinance or topic really came to light during the flood 2016, where people were trapped in subdivisions with one entrance and couldn't get out. And recently, Tracy brought to our attention that, I mean, you can have subdivisions with 500, 600, 700, 800 lots, and there's really nothing that says you have to have more than one entrance. And we felt like that as Livingston Parish develops, that it would be a safer, I guess, place to live if you had a way, more than one entrance and more than one exit to get in and out of the larger subdivisions. And so, I mean, I guess we'll wait. Tracy, do you have anything to add?
I was confused about the wording because it's the amending, but yes, okay, we are amending the ordinance as it stands now. So,
And you know, part of it, I'm sorry.
that's okay. I thought that there was, I was confused. You're absolutely right. Okay, so up to this point, there is no upper limit. Like you were saying, you can have as many houses in a neighborhood with no entrance requirements. I think that, you know, that's reckless to some degree, and so we went and had a discussion at the ordinance committee and had discussions amongst each other and with each other, and I think that the national, the fire, was it the fire standard? The fire said it was 199. So it's 199 homes at the point of one entrance. If you have more than, if you have 200 or more, it requires 2 entrances. This was what we had discussed, and I think it kind of come to the agreement on it, the ordinance committee. So I make the motion that we pass this.
You know, also I'd like to add to that, Mr. Colonel House, that
John, hold on. Before we do, I'd like to go ahead and close the public hearing.
Okay.
All right, now, Councilman Thomas.
Sure. You know, when we talked about this ordinance, we went through it a couple times during the committee. But one thing that we brought up in the ordinance committee that was going to make a significant change to our subdivisions is that our current ordinance discourages interconnectivity between neighborhoods. Subdivisions are built purposely at the dead end with a cul-de-sac or something, when there's property behind it that can eventually be tied to. So part of this ordinance is also going to encourage developers, when you build a subdivision, you won't just put tax strips at the end so no one can ever use that in the past, in the future. It will be made available so if a developer does come in the future and does the property behind it, that these roads can all be interconnected and just really improve traffic. Baton Rouge, actually, one of the model ordinances that we were looking at, Baton Rouge has that. And, you know, after you really look at this, our ordinance has been looking for the opposite for the past year. So I think this is going to be a major change and really help us for the future of helping traffic. So that's another thing I think is a great thing.
Safety and traffic is,
Well,
Right.
the thing that we noticed about this is we didn't, when this came out of committee, we were working on the wording on C and D, which was to make some changes to our current ordinance that prohibits or discourages connectivity. And then also was gonna set aside another like deed that would then, if there was a property next to you, you had to attach a road, you know, to it to promote connectivity and future development. And actually there were some individuals here that had some expertise that were gonna help us with that. And somehow we missed an email that they sent, and so I'm trying to get it right now, and I'm not having much success. So I guess my question is, if nobody cares, can we punt on this for just a minute until we get an email and get some wording to try to move forward? Wait, never mind, I just got it. I'm sorry.
You came in.
Well, we could probably still move forward with it.
Well,
We're just introducing it tonight.
If you got the,
well, this isn't the introduction. This is the introduction's been made. We've had the hearing.
real quick, I just want to say another thing too while you're thinking and trying to read that, Gary, is keep in mind too that, you know, some of the smaller subdivisions, you know, 20, 30, 40 lot subdivisions, some of the reasons why people buy lots in those subdivisions is they want it to be a little more private than the larger subdivisions. This particular ordinance is centered around lots, like Tracy said, of 200 lots or more, where you have a lot of traffic, you know, and you truly need, for safety reasons, 2 entrances or 2 exits. You know, I just want to make sure everybody understood that.
And I also had made a point in the ordinance committee meeting that there might be a case where you have a neighborhood that has, I don't know, 20 homes, and you know they're a good size, and it backs up to an area that was previously undeveloped. I don't really see in my mind them going, hey, we can make that our second entrance and go through there and destroy the integrity of that 10 or 15 you know, lot neighborhood. I'm not gonna. I would not allow them to use that as an. Now you can connect it.
I'll make a motion.
You know, but you're going to need that. That's not. You know, you're not going to put 250 houses behind it and use that as your second entrance. I don't want. But there is some. We certainly, Mr. Towers said, we do need some interconnectivity. That helps traffic flow. It helps everybody. But, you know, we have to be smart about it in the sense where, you know, I'm not trying to destroy what this neighborhood has been there forever and allow to open up for 10 houses and 15 houses. Now it is essentially the back end of a neighborhood with 200 and plus houses back there.
Mr. Garlinghouse, with since we don't have the ordinance written in front of us, I'd like to make a motion that we just defer this item to the next council meeting. We'll have an ordinance before us, and if there's any more questions.
I agree.
Is that okay?
And I'm gonna forward this to the council, and so that we're able to get, everybody can read that. And Shane, you might want to try to schedule one between the next if we got time.
We do have one coming.
Okay, then maybe we can address these items and see what we do and don't like on them. But it was just promoting connectivity because, I mean, if we're going to require people to have 2 entrances when you make subdivisions, we don't want to discourage, you know, the connectivity of adjacent property, because you're creating some things up for failure. You know what I'm talking about? So it just seemed to me, by promoting connectivity, that you're going to help solve the transportation issues that you have now. We're trying to dump big subdivisions on one road.
It's also, but to me, I want to be clear. That's a kind of a side issue to the main issue.
Right.
Main issue is I'm not comfortable with someone putting in a 7, 3, 4, 5, 600 house neighborhood with 1 entrance. That's insanity. That needs to stop. And then that's going to stop. We're not going to hold anything up, but I'm willing to table it for the time being in order to try to get it right as far as the issue.
We're gonna have to amend it. We'll get it right.
We got a motion from Mr. Wascom on the table, second by Mr. Garlinghouse. Any comment from the public on this? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Item 11 is tabled.
I'm sending this to you now too.
All right, let's go ahead and do our addendums before we get into the planning. First addendum, adopt a resolution to authorize a waiver for the allowance of the first address to be issued for a handicap accessible mobile home for a family member on a 1 acre lot that does not meet building lines and setback requirements located on Matt James Road off of Walker South. Mr. Davis.
That's in my district, and he's handicapped, and I do not see a problem with doing that, moving forward with it. I'll make a motion.
I second.
Motion by Mr. Averett, second by Mr. King. Any comment from the public on that? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Addendum 2, adopt a resolution to name an unnamed road, Donald Sibley Road, located off of Macklin Road in Council District 1. This is my district. This is all 911 purposes. It's a road, we just need, they all need to have a name for 911. So if I could ask someone to make that off for me. Mr. Harris makes the motion. Mr. King seconds. Any comment from the council? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Addendum 3, adopt a resolution to amend the 3-year priority road list. Mr. Taylor?
We got 2 items, and you cover them both together. So the first one is add Destrehan Avenue located in Council District 2 to the 2018 construction contract. Mr. Gary contacted us about this, and we're doing 3 or 4 roads inside this subdivision, and there's a 800-foot road called Destrehan Road that actually touches these roads, and so look, it kind of makes a whole lot of sense to do it all at one time. We're going to save money from mobilization costs if we go back and do it next year. Can you see if we got enough money to do it? So I looked at it, and it's about $50,000. So I contacted Mr. Sam, and he got with Mr. Layton. They looked at it and said, you know, we did come in below bid, and we do have a little money, but everything comes before the board. So we're going to let you vote on that and decide. But I think it does make sense, and it would save us some mobilization costs if we came back at a later date. The second item is item B, remove Woodland Street South section from the 2018 construction contract to be replaced with sections of North Woodcrest and Summer Street, both being located in Council District 4 without an anticipated cost increase to the contract. The mayor of Denham Springs actually contacted Mr. Sam's office about this, and he contacted Mr. John. They asked us to look into it. These roads are on the priority list, so we're just moving them up if y'all approve. I went and rode the roads. There's one road that's one lane's missing asphalt, and in this section he's wanting to do. But if you take the linear footage of those 2 streets, it is a little bit less than the one we're taking off, so we don't anticipate a cost increase, and we're working with everybody on that. So those are the 2 items, and I'd like your consideration and what y'all want to do on it.
I'd like to make a motion that we adopt that amendment, change order. It's not really a change order. It's
Just add new roads to
amending the priority road list.
yes.
So motion by Mr. Wascom to amend the 3-year priority road list.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Talbot. Any comment from the public on this? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor.
Appreciate it.
Addendum 4 has been tabled. Addendum 5, accept the resignation of Gravity Drainage District Number 5 board member, Mr. Gerlinghouse.
Yes, Mr. Preston Kilcrease gave me his resignation earlier this week. He has been a member of the Gravity Drainage Board for 22 years, and he has served, admirably and has spent many hours helping make sure that Gravity 5, District 5 operated as well as it has. Unfortunately, his health has caused him to miss, some meetings and not be involved as much as he would like to be. So I would make a motion that we accept his resignation. And I don't know if we can reappoint someone else in the same. Or
I'll second.
We'll do that when we get to it.
Okay.
All right. Motion by Mr. Gerlinghouse, second by Mr. Talbot. Is any comment from the public? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right. Item 12, Planning Commission recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First on the agenda from the Planning Commission will be Foxglove subdivision. This is in Ms. Tracy Girlinghouse's district. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary plat for Foxgrove subdivision. As y'all remember, they brought it back to the engineers. They created servitudes this time, and they're asking for no waivers.
Yes. I do. This is the one of the neighborhood that brought the previously discussed ordinance change to my mind. They're essentially building 300, I think just north of 300 homes on a single entrance onto Duff Road. Now, I don't know if any of y'all are familiar with Duff Road and Walker, but Duff Road is already a heavily traveled, very narrow road, very curvy road. I am at a loss of words for this one, guys. I do not like it. Now, what I like and what we have is two different things.
Where's your recommendation?
I do hope that the developers continue to search for an alternative entrance and exit, you know, maybe out the back in the future. And just be, whenever they can help that situation out in the sense of, I know they have to have a traffic study, correct, after this, so.
That's being requested by the parish.
Yes, and, you know, turning lanes, Duff Road is a narrow, I've said that, it's just a narrow little road that gets a lot of traffic. This potentially is going to bring a minimum of 600 to 700 cars twice a day when it's complete down Duff Road, which it worries me. It's worrisome. So I'm just to say I'm not for it because I'm not for it. So, but I know. So
Yeah.
that's what I got. Thank you.
What was the recommendation on that?
To approve.
To approve it.
They didn't ask for any waivers. I think they came in and fixed the
Oh, yeah,
issues
they
had.
came in and asked no waivers,
I'll make a motion to
and I'll second.
Got a motion by
again-
Mr. Averitt, second by Mr. King.
We're trying to cure some of this, but
Is there
some
any
more.
comment from the public? Any more comment from the council on this? Ms. Sandy, call for the vote.
Mr. Lovell?
Yes.
Mr. Averitt?
Yes.
Mr. Mack?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
No.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next on the agenda is also a waiver for minor resub requirements. This is in the Land of Pines subdivision. This is an old subdivision. It's a waiver for the size of the lots, an 80-foot road frontage. It does have sewer. It does have sewer available. So it's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the waiver for the size of lots and the 80-foot for the road frontage for Land of Pines.
Now, Sam, I thought the 80-foot, and I could be wrong, I thought the 80-foot was based on if you didn't have sewer. If
This
you had
has sewer.
So if you had
80-foot
sewer, you don't have to, I didn't think you had to meet the 80-foot.
Our ordinance states that it has to have an 80-foot setback.
It's just the state says.
Oh, the setback is,
Yeah.
it's not the lot width,
No,
it's
it's
the
not the lot
setback?
size. It's
Oh,
an
okay.
80-foot
Yeah.
I
setback.
misunderstood.
This is in my district, and it's the front half of Land of Pines that fronts Highway 16,
It's a
just
whole
north of
thing,
town in
boss.
Denham. Yeah, and they're gonna build 4 houses facing the side streets, not facing Highway 16. It's got city sewage. What we've been doing in the past, if you have city sewage, it really is irrelevant to us how big that lot is. You know, or to me anyhow, I don't know about you guys. They're building model homes for their big subdivision behind Land of Pines, which I'm not thrilled about that being back there, but it's there. Went back there
Bunch of-
today. Bunch of houses.
Bunch of houses.
They're gonna be some pretty houses, different size. But I'll make a motion to approve it.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Mack. Any comment from the public? All in favor? All opposed?
Just the setback.
Next on your agenda is a subdivision with improvements, Oak Hills Estates, 8th filing. This is in Mr. Gary Talbot's district, off of Louisiana 16. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary plat for Oak Hills Estates, 8th filing.
Under normal circumstances, I would be jumping up and screaming because everybody from Oak Hills that lives on the backside of the bridge wants to know when the parish is going to build them another entrance. Well, the developer's getting ready to build them another entrance. The 8th filing is actually going to tie into the Brashear subdivision, which will connect to Caraway Road, which connects to Springfield Road. And so, you know, I've talked to the engineer with respect to this, and hopefully we end up with some, you know, the roads all appear to be wide enough, the parish roads that exist back there. There probably needs to be some signage and some, you know, create some four-way stops or whatever. But ultimately, we're going to create another entrance to Oak Hills, which during the flood, when the bridge went under, everybody that lived in there was stranded. I think the sheriff had to fly a helicopter in there to get an employee out. So consequently, it's something that we've been striving toward. It's not optimal, but it's better than what we had before. So, you know, I'm somewhat excited to say that we're going to get another entrance.
Through connectivity.
It's through connectivity.
Yeah.
I just got a quick question.
Sure.
Oak Hill subdivision, have they started that gravel pit?
Cool, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Gravel pit, yeah. Trust me, I'll get
So the quality of life in that subdivision.
Oh, it's horrible.
It must be pretty horrible.
Scoop, nobody pulled your chain. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I've been out there at 4:30 in the morning taking noise readings, and I'm gonna be honest with you, the barking dogs are louder than the noise you hear from the gravel pit. However, part of that's because the beeping on the backup alarms is a high pitch, and the way sound waves are measured, you know, you hear the beeping. It just doesn't move a lot of decibels. So consequently, it's kind of a deceptive thing. But yeah.
I talked to a friend of mine who lives in that subdivision today, and I asked him the same question because I knew this was coming up, and he said he didn't even think they had started on it. He hadn't heard nothing.
Oh yeah, they've been hauling gravel out there for a while. Yeah. I think that it was a perception more, and it was really if your property had to back up to where the gravel pit was, and I think it was concerned about, you know, it might affect quality of life. And there's no doubt that you can hear a truck turn off the highway sometimes when they're empty, but it's not a loud noise. It's just at 4 o'clock in the morning, there's a lot going on. It's pretty quiet, so it doesn't take a lot. I mean, the trucks on the highway and the tires hitting the rub strips are louder than anything else. But this is going to solve one problem that exists in a subdivision that they tried to put a second entrance in the 3rd filing, and the people were against it. And now at 8th filing, we're finally getting entrance, and I think everybody's tickled that you're getting entrance.
And most of those people wouldn't use that entrance, but in an emergency,
yeah, they're not.
That's the thing that we got to look at. Most of these connectivities, people aren't going to go out and go all through that other subdivision.
I mean,
if they needed to, they could.
If you lived in the 6th, 7th, 8th filing, it might, depending on how many people utilize, you know, the deal and what the intersection of Caraway and 1019 looks like in a given morning will determine, you know, what you do. But it's a long way. I'm gonna tell you, from the front of Oak Hills back to the back of the 7th file or the start of the 8th file, it is a long way. And so, you know, if you live in the back and you're driving to the front entrance, it is a while to get there. I mean, I'm talking about like 10, 12, 13. I mean, you know, it's a long ways back there. And so
the people who live in the other neighborhood, they're not going to be jumping for joy.
No, they're not. But I mean, they're not. I mean, they're the people that live on Rhonda and Arlene and Caraway are probably not going to be really happy.
This may not be the time to ask this, but if you got the 20 lot subdivision like you're talking about that don't want people coming through there, and I totally get that. But what if you put you a D8 rated pipe gate there?
Public road.
Is it an option? And says, hey, look, here comes the natural disaster.
I don't think you can't gate a public road.
See, and I'm gonna be honest with you. To be perfectly honest, when we're talking about a parish road, and we talked about some specific subdivisions the other night in the deal. Those are parish roads that touch somebody else's property. And sometimes, you know, we try to tell people you can't use that road. Well, guess what? It's a public road.
It is.
I mean, you know what I'm saying? So we ask developers to design a subdivision not to utilize a parish road, which
That don't make sense.
I mean, I understand both sides of the argument. You know what I'm talking about? I understand the people, the 20 people, the homes that live on that road don't want additional traffic. However, that road is maintained by the taxpayers of the parish. So do those 20 homes have exclusive use of that road? I mean, it's a tough decision. It's a tough question to answer. But I think every time you look at it, you got to look at the benefit to the whole. You got to look at the parish as a whole, and that's all.
It's
right.
a case-by-case basis.
We got a motion?
I'll make the motion. I'm sorry.
Motion from Mr. Talbot.
I'll second.
Second from Mr. Mack. Any comment from the public? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Next on your agenda is a subdivision with improvements, Ellis Estates. This is in Mr. Jeff Avery's district, off Buddy Ellis. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary plat for Ellis Estate. And I might say that we did have some concerned citizens at the Planning Commission meeting. I don't know if anybody's here tonight that wants to speak.
Yes, we did.
Had a few folks.
I was there.
Yeah, Scooter was there.
They were concerned.
Yes, I've had a lot of calls about it. And their main concern is the flooding on the backside and the third interest, if I'm not.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Another one, it's one of the connectivity
It's one of
deals
the
that
connectivity.
we're starting to really want them to do.
And it's kind of not a small subdivision, but not a real large one either.
How many lots is that?
I'm talking about the one that they want to connect
It's
to.
a pretty good size. It's actually two, right? Right next to each other or behind each other?
Kind of.
Yeah,
But and that's the only thing I got against it, you know, is going against there. So
right.
that's my intake on it.
And that's another tough deal. That the original subdivision was designed with a road to touch that other piece of property. I mean, it was designed
For future
expansion. I mean,
261.
huh?
261.
261
Is
on the new
Is
one.
the first one or the second?
The new one.
The new one.
How many were in the old?
I can't remember exactly.
We don't have it on paper. Right?
But it was designed with future expansion in mind.
The old one goes from the Walker South, I think, to Highway 16.
Yeah, so I mean, it's
All the way through that.
it's one of those deals that, you know, there were people that didn't want that subdivision when it came the first time. You know what I'm talking? Didn't want the original subdivision, and now the people in the original subdivision don't want the second subdivision. I mean, it's
Motion to accept the plan.
All right, a motion
And
from
I'll
Mr.
second.
Washington, second from Mr. King. Any comment from the public? Ms. Sandy, call for the vote on this.
Mr. Lebel?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
No.
Mr. Mack?
No.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Talbot?
yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Next on your agenda is a multifamily development. This is Cypress Landing Townhouses. This is in Mr. Scooter King's district off of Lockhart Drive and Linder Road. It's a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the revised preliminary site for Cypress Landing Townhouses.
You got a question?
Yeah, Sam, this thing's got an entrance right at the traffic circle on Lockhart. Or can we make them exit one way and go through the traffic circle to go another way? I mean,
That's possible. You're gonna look at that anyhow, right,
Chad's
Chad?
here. Chad's the one's gonna review the thing, he and Morgan.
Yeah.
And also the engineer of the development.
I mean, it's almost like, you know, when they sometimes you make you turn out and go through a J-turn.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. We do have to get a DOT permit, so when we first started, we did not have the connection to Linder Road out there.
Yeah, now
This
it's,
is a revision, you bought an extra acre, you're gonna add a couple extra units. But it is supposed, I'm anticipating a right-in, right-out only, I'm not sure, but basically DOT is gonna tell us what they need us to do.
yeah, and then on Linder, they'll be able to go either way because it's way down from the light, up from the circle. It used to be a light. When they bought this extra acre, I didn't like the design of it before. It had that little bitty T in there, and now it's an L, and people can go out on two different, a state highway or a parish road.
Yeah,
Yeah, and they're gonna study that.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's all I wanted to
And
be
I
sure.
agree, Gary, we've talked about it before, that being right at the foot of that traffic circle, roundabout, whatever you wanna call it, is iffy, but DOTD's, if they permit it, then they say it's okay.
I imagine now that we're getting to the limit, most people will go out right there and they'll have a hit roundabout.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right, probably, unless they're going back to Walker. Yeah, but most people are gonna be going the other way. Yeah, if they can't go left, then they'll go out, go through the circle and go right back out, no problem.
Well, like you said, Scooter, the state will do an evaluation on the.
I'll make a motion, we accept
turn-in.
that.
I'll second it.
Motion by Mr. King, second by Mr. Tao. Any comment from the public? Council?
Okay.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passed.
Next on your agenda is a commercial development. This is in Mr. Shane Mack's district off of George White Road, or actually on George White Road. It is a recommendation of the Livingston Parish Planning Commission to approve the preliminary site plan for South Alexander Development with a waiver on the limestone used for the driveways and along as all the parish engineer comments are addressed. And I thank the developer and his attorneys here. If you have any questions, this is something that we haven't experienced before, but it's we handled it as a commercial
Hey,
development.
Shane, did you look at this much?
I did.
This
I
thing's
did.
pretty cool, I'm telling you.
It's good. I think it's gonna be a good thing. I got a few questions.
Okay.
Chairman, members of the council, I'm Shelby Easterly. I represent Juul Energy, a Louisiana corporation that's making this proposal. I have the company president, Robert Schmidt, with me. Juul Energy is in the business of constructing solar energy farms. Put the solar energy panels out, pour them to the sun, collect the sun's energy, convert it to electricity, plug that electricity into the energy line right down the road from where the site is. There's no environmental impact, nothing at all of danger. We're going to put a large investment of money here, large investment in labor to get it started. Once it's done, it's going to be very little traffic to maintain it, anything at all with respect to it. And
Fencing
creating
issues and things.
clean energy for
Yes,
40
sir.
years and could be renewed at the end of 40 years. This is the first one that Juul will build in the state of Louisiana. Energy had it on their list for next year. They've asked Juul to build it this year, and that's why we're pushing to get them on the ground, getting after it.
The more we put in the
Mr.
grid,
Mack?
the better.
Thank you, Mr. Easterly. You touched on a couple of things. I just wanted to make sure that it was clear. You said to the best of your knowledge, there's no health hazards known to the surrounding neighbors, people living in that area. Absolutely no health hazards whatsoever if we go forward with this project.
I know of none. Mr. Schmidt is the company president. I think he will say there are none.
Yeah, are you asking about the operation of the plant?
I'm talking about just the people, you know, living in the area, you know, radiation, you know, I don't know that much about solar power, solar energy, and it's to my understanding y'all going to be supplementing that substation right there, you know, that energy power has there. And I just wanted to make sure that there's no health hazards to the surrounding individuals, you know, whether they be riding a three-wheeler down the side of the property line or living across the road. It looks like this is going to be on both sides of George White Road?
That's correct.
North and south.
North and south, right? And so, can you answer that question?
Yeah, it's actually the same technology that you would find in your old Casio calculator, probably sitting in your desk. It's a solar cell, so there are no health hazards that someone on the outside of the plant would be exposed to.
And the other question I had, one of the constituents called me traffic. I think Mr. Easterly touched on that. Once the construction is complete, be very minimal traffic up and down George White Road, correct?
That's correct.
Additional, you know, due to the, you know, development.
We have to cut the grass quarterly.
Yeah.
There's one individual that would visit the site Even on if that was a daily basis, which it doesn't necessarily need to be, that's one vehicle.
Yeah.
So there wouldn't be any impact.
And the last question I have, and it's probably, well, it's not the most important because health hazards would have been the most, but drainage. You know that area, some of that area right there drains very poorly. So there's a well-developed, well-designed gravity drainage plan that's going to have no adverse effects on any of the surrounding properties. Can you answer that question?
We're working with our engineers to finish developing that plan, but no, we will not impact the surrounding properties.
Yeah. Okay.
There's part of the property that we can't use because it will be used to collect any sort of stormwater that would already be collecting in that area. So that is addressed in our plan.
They're going to be built on stilts, right? You're going to have them just basically on, I'm sure, like a metal pylon. So,
right.
I mean, are they hauling in any dirt?
No.
So I mean,
okay.
It'll be none. It'll be any. It won't make it any worse or better than what it already is. I'm assuming because.
And it's my understanding. Thank you for that, Tracy. That was
right.
very important. I appreciate your input there. The fence. Heard that y'all were talking about putting up a 10-foot fence. Where would that fence? Is that not true?
We are going to meet the requirements of Livingston Parish, and so there's a requirement on certain sides to have an 8-foot wooden fence. We have a requirement to have barbed wire at the top of all fences, and so it may end up being 9 feet, but it's because of the ordinance that requires us to have an 8-foot wooden fence. It won't be any different than the fence that's on the neighboring property that Entergy owns, where they have a wooden fence surrounding the substation.
Okay. So basically, you're talking about putting a privacy fence between your property, the development, and any residential property that's currently being occupied.
Correct.
That's what you're saying. And then you'd have a separate security fence around the whole entire piece of property, or a whole entire development?
No. So on George White Road, because we won't be facing a residential property, we'll have 6-foot barbed wire metal fence. So not a 8-foot wooden fence. So all of the neighboring residential properties will be screened with that 8-foot wooden fence.
Okay. So you don't have a security fence all the way around the property?
Yes. There is a fence
There is a
around the
fence.
entire property. Portions of it are going to be wooden fences 8 feet tall. Portions of them are going to be wire fences 6 feet tall, in line with the ordinance, depending upon whether they face a residential property or just face a forest or the street.
Another way to put it is the default fence that we would put in is a 6-foot chain link barbed wire fence. We are putting in an 8-foot wooden fence where the parish is requiring us to, in place of the default 6-foot chain link fence.
Yeah, they may want to look at something like we did for the store down there in the homeowner with the 8-foot chain link fence or whatever with the slats.
Well, I think by the time they put the barbed wire on top of the 6-foot fence, they probably get close to 8. But the 8-foot wood fence is going to have barbed wire on top of it also, so you're going to reach a higher elevation.
But you're just going to get more longevity with the Cyclone 8-foot fence.
Right. So I mean,
with the barbed wire.
that would be Shane if you wanted to let them put a
Maybe
8-foot
something
chain
like
link
that.
with inserts. I mean, because you're going to have, it's going to last longer. But that's strictly.
Yeah.
I mean, the ordinance
And look
calls
better
for
a long
wood.
time.
You know what I'm talking about? But
In other words, he's having to put barbed wire, probably, is that a federal requirement around something like this? On the,
Yeah, we have to meet certain security criteria
right,
in the UL code. So
right,
yes, that's
sure,
why we
because
have-
it's electric generation, okay.
so it's got to have a barbed wire. The question is whether they're going to put barbed wire on top. But
I'm good with making the motion and moving forward with just that one waiver. And that was
On
the
the
limestone
roads,
roads.
yeah.
now Sam, the limestone's going to, where the limestone touches the parish road, they're going to pour a concrete apron, right?
Yes.
So we still gonna protect the parish road from, okay.
I'll second that. You made the motion?
All right, motion, Mr. Mack, second, Mr. King.
Good question. I'm glad we worked out that, because I'm really intrigued with solar power and the clean energy. Tell me how much room how square footage of the solar panels, just real quick, you know?
The individual?
This,
The
total.
site itself?
Yes.
It says
I
a
wanna say
little bitty.
60 exact, what is that?
That's a,
60
well,
acres?
41 acres of solar panels, 60 acres total, I think it was. Something close
It should
to
be in the
that.
plan.
But 40 plus acres of solar
So
panels.
40 acres of
It's
solar.
going to carry 7.8 kilowatts, is that what you said?
Close to 8 megawatts.
10 megawatts.
So you'll have a
Yeah.
meter just tied right there going into the substation, so I guess you just build energy.
It's gonna be different. The meter at your house, it runs one direction, I'm gonna run another
So
direction.
you'll just build energy. So I'm really glad that you're actually taking the sun and creating a revenue. I mean, I just think that's
That's why I
fascinating.
said it was cool.
I appreciate the technology. I mean, I'm not trying to cut off the fencing thing, but I just was.
Look, and just a side note, Mr. Wascom, I have solar panels on my house. Some months, I have $18, $12 electric bill.
Okay, well,
So,
good for
I mean,
you.
they're
That's a good thing.
really-
Ms. Amy, you got the motion? All
Yep.
Motion by Mr. Mack.
Thank y'all. We
second by
appreciate
Mr.
it.
King.
right, motion, Mr. Mack, second, Mr. King. Any comment from the public on this? Ms. Amy, call the vote.
Mr. Lobel.
Yes.
Mr. Avery.
Yes.
Mr. Mack.
Yes.
Mr. Garlinghouse.
Yes.
Mr. Talbert.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes.
Mr. Wascom.
Yes.
Mr. Harris.
Yes.
Mr. Ard.
Yes. All right, item 13, Planning Department, Mr. Sam.
We need a recommendation to accept the roads and improvements for maintenance, Oak Haven Drive, and release the maintenance bond. Do you want that in two separate motions, Ms. Sandy? This is an Oak Hill 6-5.
You do it in one? Okay. Yep, we'll do it in one.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion, Mr. Talbot, second by Mr. Avery. Any comment from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
B would be Cedar Gardens, same situation, accept the roads and improvements into the maintenance system, and release the $153,051.12 maintenance bond. for
Road's
Cedar
good?
Gardens.
The road's good, Mr. Sam?
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Everything's good? Everything's fine?
Yes, yes, we go out and inspect these things before we
All right.
come to you
I
guys
know
for
that.
recommendation.
Just making him say it. I'll make that motion.
Motion from Mr. Garlinghouse,
I'll second.
second from Mr. King. Any comment from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passed.
So that's,
Thank you, Mr. Sam.
thank you, Mr. Sam.
Thank you, Mr.
Appreciate you.
If you guys, you going to item 14
Yep.
then?
Yes.
Yes, we go ahead and do item 14 while you're here. Item 14, authorize the parish president to sign Part 2 of the precinct survey form received from the Livingston Parish Registrar of Voters Office following the 2018 annual canvass of the voter registration roll.
I don't guess Mr. Jared Andrews is here tonight. He's our
I don't
registered
think he's
voter.
here.
He's not here.
I can speak on this.
Sure.
Yeah, this is something kind of new that the Secretary of State is asking the parish governing authorities to do.
Right.
Every year, state law mandates that the registrar of voters, each parish, they have to do a canvass
Right.
of all the precincts to see who's over 2,200, who's under 300. Well, there's a precinct survey that has two parts. Jared Andrews fills out the first part, and the parish governing authority fills out the second part. So basically, it's just paperwork. We need to authorize our parish president to sign Part 2 of the survey and send it to the Secretary of State.
And
That's all we need to
that's
do.
perfect, because Jared has already signed his part,
Yes, so this
and
is
it
just,
just needs to give you guys the parish president recommendation.
I'll make
Go
the
ahead and
motion
sign
to
his part.
authorize Lady Riggs to sign.
Motion from Mr.
I'll
Wascom,
second.
second from Mr. Harris. Any comment from the public?
Aye.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, Council.
thank you, Mr.
Thank you,
Sam.
Mr. Sam.
All right, at this time, I'm gonna move an item up. My people are being very patient out there. So we're gonna go on and go to item 18. discussion of the Five Oaks Mobile Home Park located on Red Oak Road, Council District 1, and the variance guided by LPR number 18-243 on August 9th, 2018. All right, we all know, we've seen the numerous news reports, the newspaper articles. We all know what happened here. We feel like a mistake was made. We're here to do it, to make it right. I cannot make the motion, but I'm going to ask one of my fellow councilmen if they would make a motion to rescind the resolution LPR number 18-243, in which we gave 4 waivers to a developer for a mobile home park, and ask that if he wants to continue trying to be a mobile home park, that he goes through planning as a new mobile home park, not an existing. Motion from Mr. Harris, seconded from Mr. Lobel. Is there any comment from the public on this?
Do it right.
Got it. Got it.
I got it. Council? Ms. Sandy, call for the vote, please.
Mr. Lobel?
Yes.
Mr. Avery?
Yes.
Mr. Matt?
Yes.
Mr. Girlinghouse?
Yes.
Mr. Talbert?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Mr. Wascom?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mr. Ard?
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank y'all for being here. We told them, man, didn't we?
That's the first time we ever got an applause.
Never got applause before.
I think that's the first time when we're fixing something.
Finally got something right.
And nobody appreciates that we mess something up.
Right.
But thank y'all. We really do.
Before I move on, any of y'all want to leave,
Yeah.
please leave so we can continue business. Thank y'all for your patience.
Nobody come out and they said purpose. Yeah. And that's, we'll move on.
Yep.
The newspaper, the news was here for no reason.
Oh, okay.
Hey, didn't we say since day one, if we mess up, we will back up and fix it?
We did.
We will.
And it's not
Hey, you two ain't going with them? Y'all not going with them?
No, but I have a question on that.
Oh, no.
No. Too late.
That has been
Too late.
That has been closed.
Too late. That has been closed.
Hey, I knew you told me to say it on Friday.
Not our responsibility.
I'm just walking around, you know.
I know you got something for new business at the end, right?
I'm here to call things.
I like it.
All right. Now that we got our room back quiet. Item 15, appoint board member to Gravity Drainage District Number 5, Mr. Girlinghouse.
Can we do that?
I actually have 2 appointments, but I guess we can do them one at a time, or we do them. All right. I would, 2 appointments. I have Mr. William Stacy Yawn, and I have a Mr. Stephen Paul Howes to
Really?
appoint to Gravity District 5 board. I know both of them.
As do I.
As do I.
And they're both
Nice.
people of excellent character. And I know it's a stretch. I'm gonna say it. Nah, they're friends. They're good friends, and they're both wanting to get involved in the community. They both want to be on this board. They and I have no reservations about appointing them. So I would like to make a motion to appoint either individually both of them at one time, or both of them at the same time.
Both together?
Yes.
Okay, so who's okay, so you want to specify who's taking whose spot so you know
Yeah,
the expiration date?
Sure.
Yeah.
Mr. Yawn has taken Brent Clayton's place, and Mr. Stephen Paul Howes has taken Mr. Preston Kilcrease's place.
That's a motion from Mr. Girlinghouse.
I'm gonna say.
Second from Mr. King. Is there any comment from the public on this? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
You got a resignation letter, right? We can't help but confront somebody.
Item 16, fire protection number 10, board members, Shane Mack.
Thank you, Mr. Jeff. Yes, Volunteer Fire Department, District 10, out of Holden, Louisiana. Mr. Jason Hodges had to resign due to some conflicting interests. He served on that board quite some time and done a lot of wonderful things for the people of Holden, Louisiana. And but he's moving on. So I'd like to make a motion that we accept his resignation, that he be removed from that board. Can we appoint his replacement in the same motion? I'd like to, in that same motion, in that same motion, appoint Mr. Charles Ray Gill, another outstanding citizen.
No
from
doubt.
the Holden,
One of them Holden people.
area. And he was a Baton Rouge Fire Department gentleman for a long time, served there a long time, got a lot of expertise and knowledge, you know, and he's going to be awesome. So I'd like to appoint him, and
I'll second.
And we'll move forward.
Motion by Mr. Mack, second by Mr. Avery. Any comment from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Shane, that's a good call on that. It's hard when you when you get somebody that really does have the expertise you need. Man, we need them on these boards.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take this time to recognize the presence of the great City Walker's former mayor, Mr. Travis Clark, is in the audience. He just coming gracious with
joining us late.
Yes, he is.
Should we give him a
Thank you, Mr.
I think he waited for the crowd to leave.
Hey, he couldn't get in here. They took his seat.
3 times cheers for Mr. Travis.
All right, item 17, Planning Commission Board member. We have, this is Mr. Bubba Harris.
Okay,
Joe, get this straight.
we
got it.
Okay, good.
we're gonna remove.
No,
Resign.
He resigned. Joe
you got to be careful with that.
Kowalski resigned
We done did that.
from the board, and we're going to. John's gonna reappoint somebody. We had two people in the district.
The first guy resigned. Joe did resign.
Yeah, Mike Reed.
Mike Reed resigned.
Yeah.
And so you need to appoint Jay.
I see it now.
Sandy, tell them how it is. Just
We got it.
He did. She did. She kicked me straight once. Okay. Yeah.
Mike Reed.
Mike Reed resigned because he had a conflict with his job. He just didn't have time to serve. But when he was there, he was doing a good job.
And then Joe Krasowski lived in my district, but after the flood, he moved into Bubba's district. And so he still served on the Livingston Parish Planning Commission, representing my area, but he's living in Bubba. So with this motion, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Mr. Joe Krasowski for Bubba's district.
We need to accept this resignation first.
We're going to do it all in one. Okay, we'll accept the resignation of Mike Reed first. We got a motion from Mr. Harris. Second from Mr. Garlinghouse. Comment from the public on this? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, now we're going to appoint Mr. Joe in Bubba's spot.
Okay, you want to do that separately as well?
I think you can do that.
Yeah. Think it'd keep it cleaner if we do them all separate? Yeah.
I think I can appoint Joe.
Make a motion.
To serve in
Mike Reed's place?
Mike Reed's place. Has so many
Would it be the
people
remainder of his term, or would you start a new thing?
The terms of our term.
I'll do with our term, so it don't matter. Yeah, okay.
So, motion is to appoint Mr. Joe Krasowski to Mr. Bubba Harris's appointment for the Planning Commission.
Right.
Seconded
to take place
by Mr. Garlinghouse.
We'll be removing him from 4 and reassigning him to 5.
Right. Correct.
Yeah.
Second.
We got a motion from Harris and a second from Mr. Garlinghouse. Any comment from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, now, Mr. Wascom?
That left a void in my district of a parish council planning department, and so I had to find someone really good, and I just want you to know, who you appoint for your planning commission is very important. It's so important that we find someone who has a level head and understands. And so I'd like for you to know, and the person I'm going to appoint is here tonight. He just retired. He thought he was getting out of public service, but I was able to snag him. I'm not sure if it was because of his lovely wife, but his house flooded in Denham Springs. He went through the same problems that everyone else did, but he did it with integrity and a smile, and I never saw him upset. And he brings a lot of wisdom and experience to our planning commission. I just want you to please welcome Mr. Warren Guidry to the Denham Springs, to the Livingston Parish Council.
I second that.
Yes.
Motion by Mr. Watson, second by Mr. Talbot. Any comment from the public on this? All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
Hey, did y'all let them know?
Never had a
they don't
unanimous
show up
vote
to
before?
Thank you, Warren, for serving me. I
Appreciate you.
It'll be a big asset to that.
All right. Item 19, adopt a resolution to reduce the current speed limit from 25 to 15 in the area of a dangerous curve and to place signs on Superior Drive and Plantation Estate subdivision located in Council District Number 5, RC Bubba Harris.
Yes, sir. And I went and looked at that myself, and as you're going, I'm gonna say west, they've got a house that sits where you cannot see around the curve. And that's where they would like the sign placed and the speed limit before you get that. I'm off of that.
Motion by Mr. Harris,
Second.
Yeah.
second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Comments from the public? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Motion passes. Item 20, adopt a resolution to add three-way stops. Mr. John Watson.
Yes, this is Grace Creek subdivision. It's located just outside the city limits of Denham Springs on Florida Boulevard, almost across from the Big Dog Saloon. You know where it's at. It's on the very east side of Denham Springs. It's on the south side of Florida Boulevard. What they've done was they have a really good quality homeowners association, and they've got together and voted, and they asked that we do two things. One is they'd like to ask that all the stop sign, all the speed limits be reduced to 15 miles an hour in that neighborhood. So she said, you know, and they understand the struggles. Kids playing basketball in the street. Well, some of the neighbors are like, well, get your kids out of the streets. But you know, they're taking this on themselves. They have a good active neighborhood watch. So I told them I'd support them. And so, but we could do the 15 mile an hour by resolution. So it actually is two things, and they want to have a three-way stop sign, but at Grand Turk and Milliken's Bend, and at Gray Eagle and Kanawa Court. Those two three-way stop signs would need to be done by an ordinance, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
I thought we changed the rules, determined that the DPW just did that.
Got a legal opinion that we could do it by resolution instead of ordinance.
So I make a motion that we adopt a resolution to put a three-way stop on those streets and do the 15 mile an hour speed limit.
Do we need to do them separate?
I'm going to refer to Mr. Al because the speed limit was not on the agenda.
Wasn't on the
for anybody
agenda.
to protest.
Well,
Okay.
Should we?
You gotta lift the agenda to do that.
Yeah. Put it in the next one. Probably gonna have to
That'd
do
be speed limit
have to do the
sign
speed limit on the next.
Okay.
But that'd be okay, because they
Well, I tell
ain't
you
gonna
what,
get to it
Yeah,
in
they
this
ain't gonna
time
get to it
anyhow.
in
Let's do the
Something to do with
resolution
me.
for the three-way stop signs, and if y'all good with that, and please put on the 15 speed limit for the next agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we got a motion to accept the three-way stop sign from Mr. Wascom, seconded by Mr. Harris. Any comment from the public?
Call me, you don't get.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Item 21, amend policy and procedure manual. I think, Mr. Talbot, you might have this?
We just had we had some issues at different times, mainly. mainly on our home rule charter calls for us to designate a newspaper, and it requires us to post our agenda 48 hours in advance. And we always, but our council rules required us to advertise in the paper, which at times had us running the ad for the agenda of the previous meeting. We had to have it in before we held the current meeting. So in doing some research on state law, I realized that if we post it on the door 48 hours in advance, or put it on our website 48 hours in advance, or run in the newspaper, all meet the requirements. So we keep having these issues with all these addendums and everything else. So basically, the one rule we looked at changing was having the cutoff at Tuesday, Sadie, what did we say, 10 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
Which gave the girls, you know, like 6 hours to finalize anything they needed to do to send the paper. And I mean, post on the door and put on the website, which ultimately met the requirement of the parish home rule charter, which gave us 48 hours in advance, and meet state law at the same time, which allowed for that. And it gave us as councilmen a lot longer to gather that stuff. You know, you pick up 8 days or something, you know, basically to get your business in order to figure out what you want to put on the agenda. So that was one recommendation. Now there's another recommendation about procedures on locking the doors, and that's, Miss Sandy can explain that because I confused me.
We just gonna do the agenda first, or we need to do them together?
Well, I think we can do them all at one, can't we?
Together, if
Okay.
you want to object.
But she just needs to explain that. I don't understand that part.
Mr. Caleb Coates is our maintenance director of the parish grounds, and we've never had anything in writing. It's always been just historically done where the parish council opens and closes our building. And we had a request from the lady who helps us clean the building not to open up early because of security reasons, and she's trying to clean, and all these people from motor vehicles are wanting to stand in line. So Caleb and I and Patrick Bell also came to an agreement along with the chair that who would be responsible for opening and closing the building. So there'd be no discrepancy or nobody saying, are we supposed to be doing that today? Because motor vehicles does it for us on Fridays when we have a parish holiday. We notify them. And it just makes a procedure how we notify motor vehicles. We're not going to be here. Can y'all please open and close the building? And keys. We've just kind of had a vocal way that we've done keys, passing out keys, and not a procedure for that. So I've implemented this along with opening and closing the building. What all happens when we issue a key to somebody? Because when we don't get the key back, we have to rekey everything. And this will just help. It'll be something in black and white.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Avery to accept the policy and procedures for agenda and building procedures. Second by Mr. Girlinghouse. Any comment from the public? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right, item 22, adopt a resolution to request RS 381759 be amended by our legal legislative delegation at the 2019 regular legislation session to allow Gravity Drainage District 5 to have 7 board members. Mr. Girlinghouse.
Yes. I think that Gravity Drainage District represents about $1.6 to $1.8 million annually from public money. I'm sorry, I got candy in my mouth. And that money is dispersed to correct drainage in that area, which is probably, if not the most important, obviously it's a close second to, roads and traffic flow. To that end, I think that you add 2 more members, it kind of gives a little more foundation on how it's operated it spreads out that responsibility a little bit more. So I think, and it's kind of, I think that's going to weigh most of these boards that are 5 members are going to go to probably 7 in the future. So we're going to petition the state and try to get them to approve it as 7 board member for that drainage district, and make sure that it's being represented diversely across the whole board. More minds to some degree kind of helps things go smoother and they catch more things. So to that end, I make the motion that we adopt the resolution RS 38-1759.
Motion by Mr. Garlinghouse, second by Mr. Harris.
Can I just
Sandy?
say what all needs to be put in the motion as well,
Yes.
please? We've contacted Senator Dale Artie to ask him when the timeline started for when our resolution needed to be sent in, if he was willing to be able to put this and sponsor it for Councilman Garlinghouse. It is on their radar now, so the resolution really just needs to say that y'all want to send a resolution asking him to submit this on our behalf for the legislature to change state law.
Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Sandy, we got to he's going to let us know we need to pre-advertise a local bill. I mean, we're responsible. Don't we have to do that for him? We got to pre-advertise those local, because it's a local bill. I mean,
his assistant Sammy told me she's going to get back.
Okay, yeah, because I think you got to pre-advertise because it's got to be pre-filed.
And if it's been done before,
I did it in Gravity 5. I mean, I did it in Gravity 2, and then I mean, it's just, and that's what we were going to do with Mosquito Baby. It just takes time to change those things to when state law allows for a certain number. But.
All right. Okay. So we had a motion from Mr. Garlinghouse, second from Mr. Harris. Any comment from the public? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? All right, item 23, introduction of an ordinance to amend section 1358E, utilities.
We're going to defer that. We're not quite through with the ordinance. We've had some concerns and some issues, and so it's going to be deferred. We might, hopefully we have it ready to introduce in 2 weeks, but right now we're going to hold off on it.
Item 24, district attorney report. Nothing to report. Committee reports. Ordinance committee, Mr. Mack.
Hey, thanks. Yeah, we got an ordinance committee meeting scheduled for the 20th, correct? That's next Thursday, 1 week from today. Y'all go with that?
Yeah.
I'll be out of town, Mr. Mack.
I'll take his spot.
We're going to talk about junk card ordinance again. Come on, Gary. And then, the subdivision, if y'all want to try.
I hear you. I hear you. I didn't realize we had that many junk cars in the parish.
By the time we pass this, my car
very important to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Very important to a lot of people to get that right.
My 2018 gonna be junk when that thing becomes ordinance.
All right. Finance committee, Mr. Garlinghouse.
Really, same to the projections. We were actually ahead of the projection, the post-flood projection. The numbers look pretty good. So, we're in good shape. We're in as good a shape, better shape than we thought we would be, considering the numbers after the flood. So everything looks good, promising.
Good. Yes. Item 26, councilman comment.
Yes, I have something.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be short. Coming around again. All those times for Halloween and trick or treat.
No, trunk or treat.
Trunk or treat. Well, it's either way, really. So, just so the children can get the candy. That's the big thing. And I'd like to express that gratitude that we had the last 2 times with all the help from the residents. And we're not doing this to take away from the schools that's going to have something the same night, or the churches that's going to have something the same night. This is just something that we started after the flood, and it's mostly for the children that doesn't have another place to go. But anyone that'd like to volunteer to help, it'd be greatly appreciated. You can get in touch with the council office.
Want me to throw people under the
Where's it gonna
bus?
be at this year?
Yeah.
Bo?
South Park.
Okay.
Sorry.
South Park?
Yeah. From 6 to 8.
And I don't know if they know yet, but there's gonna be a local business that we're gonna ask to donate a few things to this, and I ain't gonna name them tonight in case they say no, but I'm pretty sure they shouldn't say no. We're not gonna say.
You're not gonna say.
I'm not gonna take no for an answer, but, you know, we'll get to that next
Is
week.
there any other councilman comment? All right. I would just like to tell everybody that I am a proud grandpa.
It's official, you've been looking like one of
I'm
yours.
gonna be honest with you, hey, they look a lot like each other in the picture. I don't know if y'all noticed that or not. I don't know if it's because they really look alike or they both look bald.
I have a niece that had
She had more hair.
a daughter about 2 months ago. I have a nephew that's right now in the hospital having a daughter, and then I have another niece that has another girl due in November. So we will have 4 baby girls for Christmas this year.
Where's the ball team?
Looks like we're gonna be a softball
We
team.
missed.
Nothing wrong with it.
Martha Martian there's got a question.
Did you say your nephew's having a daughter?
Well, he's at the hospital with his wife having one.
Oh, okay.
Well,
You can do that nowadays, it's legal.
That's because you're from Mars.
Yeah.
That's right.
I have a thought.
Mr. Avery?
I think we need to make a motion to close this meeting.
All right, I got a motion from
I
Mr.
second
Avery
that.
to adjourn. Second from Mr. Grillinghouse. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?